You're listening to the Chasing Tales Outdoor Podcast, where when you can't be in the outdoors, we bring it to you. Alright guys, out here loading up the truck. We're going to start a new series called Deer Camp Diaries. It's going to be a new tradition. Whenever I go for overnight hunts or multi-day hunts, kind of getting on the road and going and doing things. I'm going to do an audio log as I go, morning and evening preferably. If something really notable happens, I'll try and jump on midday. These are going to be recorded on my phone. I also have a headset that I'm going to try, so the audio quality kind of may bounce back and forth during the episode. Obviously, that'll only happen for the first time, and once we work the kinks out of this whole setup, I'll find a consistent way of doing it, whether that's all on the phone, whether that's all on the mic. Conditionally, we will figure it out. But either way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and capture step by step as this happens. I'm going to do it honestly and truthfully so that you guys see a progression. If it happens, if the pressure kicks me in the teeth, then you'll see that. If I make a mistake, you're going to hopefully feel the emotion behind that and the excitement that should come if I actually pull the trigger or get close. So this is for the Patreons specifically. You guys have made this awesome. This season has been awesome. This trip is being paid for largely by you guys. The gas bill getting up, going out of state is being offset by you guys. And I keep telling you, we're going to do more and more things. We're doing live podcasts. We're traveling to meet people. We're doing more trips, and this is one of those creative ways where we're going to build on that. And I'm going to document things from a first-person perspective here. There won't really be much of a dialogue. This will probably be a short podcast in its total. I bet it's going to be somewhere, 25 to 30 minutes long. And after that, probably Chase and I will jump on the horn, break things down, maybe go into a little more detail about things post-mortem and kind of see what's up. But I just want to say huge thanks to all the Patreon subscribers. The Patreon hunt is coming up, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys. Looking forward to sharing my first ever deer camp in a very long time. And I just think it's going to be an awesome time. So I'm not going to belabor this very much longer. I am going to pack up, get ready for bed. Actually, I'm going to pack up and get on the road because I got to go up there tonight. 3 days to hunt, peak rut, terrible weather conditions coming, but we're going to make the most of it because whenever you get a quota hunt, you get after it. So see you guys on the other side.
Well, everybody's getting up. It's first morning at deer camp. It's kind of like a duck shoot where once the first truck gets up, the first hum of a diesel, everybody else starts getting up and going. Got up here and it's about 44 degrees this morning, which is about 20 degrees cooler than it was supposed to be when we first started monitoring the weather about 10 days ago. So that's good. I'm gonna get up, make some coffee, give the gear once over, and I guess get ready, man. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Be interesting to see what the woods are like this morning. I left my jacket at the house, which sucks, but this is the only real cold morning. Cold, whatever you want to call it. The plan is to hunt the southern side of a couple bedding areas. Try and catch some bucks cruising through that area. We'll see how that plays out. I think it'll work out. But there's so many people out here, it's going to have deer up and moving the whole time. Kind of like a dove shoot, but a little better. So, keep you guys posted.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, day one is in the books, and what an eventful day it was. I got to my spot well early. As always, on these kind of hunts, you have people who, blow out first day of camp with enthusiasm. They got a big buck on camera, or their buddy told them about something, or they're just dreaming big. And I was one of those maybe 12 people, the first 12 people to leave camp, and it was pretty night. Tried to get some sleep. It was difficult. I got there very late and didn't anticipate the rain that we had, and so the situation that I brought for camping wasn't suitable, so I had to sleep in the back of my truck, and that's fine. It works out just fine, but you kind of have to be prepared for it, and I didn't have all the necessary tools I needed to make that a seamless experience. So last night kind of sucked, but got up this morning, got in the bottom, got right where I wanted to be. Man, just found good rut sign on the way in. Got there and found a good tree. Got up quiet, got up quick, and had deer blowing through. You could hear it. He's just running that bottom, man, just doing his thing, chasing a doe back and forth to my west. And had a good strong north wind. I expected him to be west and then north of me. Everything to the south and the east was thicket and downwind. About 30 minutes to the end of to the beginning of shooting light, had a gentleman come down the same trail I came, and I flashed him off, and he got about 40 yards away and turned around and left, and I thought he was going to do the right thing, only to have him turn around and come back down the trail, walk 20, 25 yards underneath me, refuse to speak to me, proceeded to climb up into a climber and face me. And if that wasn't dangerous enough, there was a deer coming through the thicket to my northeast, and right about the time I made a mistake. In hindsight, I made a mistake, and I called to that deer to get him to turn and come to me. He was kind of moving to the southeast, and he would have got downwind of me, and so I called, hoping that I could cut his route a little shy, that even if he went downwind of me, there was a fair amount of opening he'd have to step into. And that darn thing turned on a dime, but he said, to heck with the wind, and cut between myself and the other hunter, and he shot the deer. Nice 8-point. And that had me a little bewildered. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I was depressed, kind of gutted, frankly, because I had done everything I needed to, put myself in the position, done a lot of e-scouting, picked a good spot on the map, had some friends confirm it for me after I'd picked that spot, and had some dude who decided he wanted to hunt the spot where he had left his climber the day before, more so than he wanted to honor how public land works, where first person there's first person gets it. You know, there's no reservations on public land. It doesn't work that way. Except for this fella thought the rules don't apply to him. So, more on that later, but we're going to let that dog lie, because I still can't let go of that. So, I decided to stay in the tree because the thicket he was at and facing was kind of the wrong direction. I had those deer doing everything to the east and the thicket to the left of me, about 20, 30 yards, which was a safe shot, not east of me, west of me, which was a safe shot because he wasn't in the way, and he was being quiet, so I sat there till about 9:30 when my buddy calls me and tells me he shot a really nice funky deer. And boys, let me tell you, not only did that put wind in my sails, it kind of rejuvenated my spirits, because I needed some good juju at that point in time. And he shot a once in a lifetime buck, and I'll post photos of it for you guys to see. But think of like a 1970s candle, or lamp rather, not a candle, where it kind of has a fat bottom, it curves inward, and then it kind of curves back out, and then curves inward again, kind of like a genie bottle almost. And that's what this buck does. He's a 4-point officially, 5-point unofficially. His rack is all kinds of jacked up, but it's got incredible mass, and he's a mature deer. I mean, I think this deer was every bit of 3.5 years old. It was larger in the nose and the body than most other deer that I saw at camp that day, or today. So with that, we drug that joker out. It was a long doggone drag. Gutted it, got some food in our belly, and about 2 o'clock we decided it was time to roll out, and we were gonna see what we could strike off and do that afternoon. And we got into some fun, man. We went back into this thicket, where you kind of had a couple bedding areas. You had the bedding area to the west that I had hunted previously that morning. You had a bedding area in the middle. And with all the racket he was making, this fellow was just every 5 minutes towards the end of the sit, just clacking his antlers together like this was Midwest whitetail. We decided those deer might shift to that middle bedding area, and so we busted up in there, and there was about a 75-yard, 100-yard wide slough between the middle and the eastern bedding area. And he set up on one side, I set up on the other side, and we had a due south wind. So at this point, the wind has shifted to the south for the rest of the day. And our thinking was that, you can set up on the north side of either one of those bedding areas and catch anything moving through. And again, we had a dude somehow managed to backdoor us. I still don't know how he did what he did to get there. And you just hear, we never heard him climb down, so it might have been real. It's possible it could have been real, but you heard three or four doe bleats. You heard some grunting, and you heard antlers smacking. Never saw a headlamp at dark. Never heard the guy climb down, and it stopped after about an hour. Most hunters, I don't think, would stop. Pick the middle of the day and make the noise and then stop. So I don't know. Maybe it was a hunter. Maybe it wasn't. We climbed down and reassessed, and that's the end. We're gonna cook some steaks, eat some good food, kind of fill some calorie deficits we've had for the day. We're dog tired. That's the end of day one, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you like this little segment I'm putting together. I kind of like it myself. It's a nice little audio diary. So, day one's in the books. Got 3 days to hunt. All right, fellas. Didn't do an intro this morning. I apologize. I am exhausted. I could not sleep last night. I'm sleeping in the backseat of my Nissan, and it is not exactly what I need, even though I'm a halfling, man. It's fine. It's suitable, but good Lord. And the early starts to the day and the long nature of the evenings is killing me. But anyways, day two. We started the day off by going back over to that area that Marty killed his deer, which was this beautiful pine flat that meets a swamp bottom full of young white oaks, full of a lot of like leafy, woody browse that these deer really like. Some bedding areas back in that area. It's an area that I hunted last year and shot my buck last year that we didn't recover. I don't know if you may recall the podcast and the video, but I put him in the exact same spot because it's one of those areas that's just an annual producer for sure. So went back in there and we spread out, had a lot of hogs come by mid-morning, and thought they were going to linger long enough or not mid-morning, but right before shooting light. And we thought they were going to linger for a while. And just as shooting light came up, those jokers got into the thicket and stayed there. And right before I could see into that bottom, I had a buck come through grunting. And I don't know what it was. But after that, the woods were dead quiet, and we spent the better part of the morning just sitting in the tree trying to reassess what we wanted to do, texting each other. And, Marty had bought a climber, but he didn't have any straps, so we kind of had to redneck rig a ratchet strap, which, it ain't exactly ideal, but he was starting to get a little tired, and I had gotten a little tired, and so we were trying to figure out if we were working too hard or if we were working smart. And so we decided to call it early that morning, go back to camp, get some food in our gut, and kind of just reassess. And we had some buddies come by camp, and we talked about some different things, and got to looking at a map, and we saw we could backdoor an area fairly easy from the north that we had been eyeballing and thought we couldn't. And just the habitat had shifted some over the years, and it was now way more easy. It was actually like way plausible to get in to that bottom. So about 1 o'clock, we decided to take the rifles and just go walk and make sure before we lugged everything back in there. Walk in there and see what we could find, see if there was good sign. And I kept telling Marty that morning, and I'm sure he was getting tired of me saying that, but there's a lot of pressure on this piece of public right now. There hasn't been. The quota hunt is kind of one of those selective situations where it goes from unpressured to pressured. And we kept saying, don't feel like we're on the X. And all the deer that were shot or seen that first morning weren't seen in those areas. A buddy of mine had, the first day he'd seen an 8-point and I think a 10-point, I think is what he said, and a pile of spikes. Then the day two, he saw the 8-point and 2 spikes. And by this morning, he hadn't seen a single thing, and he was in a very good spot. And so these deer are reacting to the pressure. And I kept saying to Marty, we need to find an area that isn't getting terrorized, which is very difficult on this piece of public. And we need to find fresh sign. If we can find fresh rutting sign, we're on the tail end of the rut, then we know that there's something worth hunting in that area. The lack of hunter pressure alone might have been the ticket. And so we set off in this bottom, first couple 100 yards. It was doable. And then every step after that just got prettier and prettier and prettier. And we got between this swamp and this bedding area, which is about I'd say, 100-yard wide swath of ground that was just barely out of the water and dry. And there were trails crisscrossing it going into the bedding area, and there were rubs on fence post sized trees everywhere you looked adjacent to that bedding area. And the best part about all of it was there were acorns all over the ground, just all over the ground. Water oaks were just dropping, raining acorns. And so Marty and I set up overlooking two separate trails coming out of the bedding area in that water. And no more than set up about 15 minutes. Well, we went back to camp is what I should say. Got our stuff and came back with the intention of leaving it overnight if it was good. And we creeped our way all the way in there as quiet as we could. Got set up, and not 15 minutes after we got set up, I had three deer, two of which I believed to be does, one of which was a nice buck. I only saw them through the thicket. We come through that water and hit my downwind. I just didn't expect them to come down that trail. And just came in downwind, and she caught my scent, and she tore off, and the buck kept chasing her. And Marty had a couple deer come downwind, down the trail we had already walked on, actually. And just there was no shot opportunity before the deer saw him, because the one downside to this area is you had to hang pretty low. There's no getting up. It's a very young area by comparison to a lot of the area around here. And so, sitting there and the wind is just kind of swirling, ain't exactly doing what you want it to. And then all of a sudden I catch movement in the bushes. Now, movement was a doe's tail sitting straight up as she walked through the bushes. And I thought to myself, well, she's probably getting dogged, and she's probably needing to be bred if that's the case. And I look behind her, and there's a really, really nice buck. It could have been anywhere between a 7 to 8 point, 6 to 8 point, somewhere in that range, but a nice frame rack. And at this point, I've got a bunch of buck tags, and it's just time to, kill something. And so, put down the binoculars, put the crosshairs on the crossing where the doe just came through. And, when the buck comes through, either he came in through a different area than the doe came through, or, I didn't see it to begin with, but there was a thick, brushy area between me and, that deer, and I couldn't get a shot. And they proceeded to move through that bedding area. And the buck's just tending that doe, and just raising hell. And, at this point, I just threw out a couple little grunts, a real soft ones, trying to, I'd say like soft medium, just trying to get him to come off that deer. And what I don't know from this perspective, because Marty is further down this bedding area from me, what I don't know is that buck is actually turned and is coming through the thicket. You said you could see the movement. It's just hear the steps, and he's coming right to me, going, he was coming right to me. But from my ear, the way that bottom laid out, it sounded like he was taking off. And so I gave a Hail Mary, and that deer dropped his tail, shut up, and just walked off. So kind of screwed myself in that regard. Is what it is. There's only so much you can do. And but the good news is we got on deer, and there weren't any hunters in that area. And the does were there, and the food source was there, and the bedding area was there. So I left my stuff there, and Marty climbed down because he was tired, and he decided that he's going to give me this bottom for in the morning. Reduce our scent, reduce our noise going in. I got everything hung up there. All I got to do is take in my rifle and my camera, and we're gonna give it a go in the morning. I can tell you this much: I'm both excited and absolutely exhausted. And one of the reasons why I left my stuff in there, I never do that, is just so I'd be forced to get up in the morning. So I will keep you guys posted. We're gonna eat some Red's famous burgers over here. We're gonna eat some burgers and have a good time and drink some adult beverages and get ready for tomorrow. So y'all stay tuned. Okay, fellas, I didn't forget to do my intro this morning. So First person to leave camp today about 4:30, which means everybody's getting a little tired. Also, people have been killing a pile of deer, which is crazy given how many hunters are in the woods. But got here first, and it's amazing how well you can sleep through pain if you're exhausted. And I woke up this morning with my hip just freaking killing me, but went to bed, got some good sleep, brewed some good coffee. I've been drinking some instant coffee in the mornings, but I brewed that good this morning, boys. A little French press, and uh, sitting here in the truck, about to walk in, 5 o'clock in the morning, shooting lights at, I think, 6:30, if I'm not mistaken. I got about a 300, no, I think it's, I don't know how long it is. Got a decent little walk, but it's not bad. So I'm going to creep in there. I'm going to let you guys know what happens, but wind is coming straight out the south, looks like, as it's supposed to, at about 6 to 7 miles an hour, as it's supposed to. And that bodes really well. So as long as that wind stays consistent, those south winds are squirrely, man. They're really squirrely. But if that south wind is predicted all day to be straight out the south, if that holds true, those deer are still in the area, which they may not be. He may have pushed that doe out of that area, and this all could be for naught. We're going to find out. Marty's going to break down camp, have some breakfast ready for me when I get back. He's waiting on a call. And this is the last hunt. I've got this afternoon to hunt as well, but I'm dog tired. My wife is tired. She has been an absolute trooper watching our infant son and going to work and then attending to everything. So I'm going to call it a day after this hunt, and hopefully that's because I've also killed a deer. But it has been a blast. You know, you learn a lot on these hunts, and on this podcast, I've heard a lot of things. Find the fresh sign, get away from pressure, find the overlooked areas. Man, we applied so much that we learned on the show to this hunt, and it paid off last night with just seeing that buck. And honest to God, this is going to sound cheesy for you guys, but I can end this hunt hanging my hat with a good feeling because I laid eyes on that deer, because I was able to apply the things that I had learned. You only get 3 days to hunt some of these little hunts down here in the deep south, and you know, in Florida, it's one of those situations where you got to make the most of those 3 days. And 3 days is not a lot of time if you're not amply familiar with that piece of public. Factor in all the gosh darn pressure and how many people just insist on hunting the spot they want to hunt. They leave their climbers in there. Doesn't leave you a whole lot of wiggle room. Seeing that deer was just about as good as killing him. Had the crosshairs on him. Could have pulled the trigger, probably wouldn't have killed him, but I had the crosshairs on him. I probably would have had a deflection and just wounded the deer and missed outright, and that's not how I roll either. So I'm going to load up the saddle. I got a real empty backpack going in, and I'm going to start creeping my way through the woods, boys. Who knows? I might get lucky, and I'm gonna, anything legal that walks out is going to die. Guaranteed. Well, guys, it didn't play out. Back at the truck now, packing up camp and headed home. We gave it hell. We gave it 3 solid days, but the weather's just getting increasingly bad, hostile, wet, warm. Thunderstorms are coming in this afternoon, and so I'm calling it for what it was. It was a fun time, and listen, in the end, we had a really good time. I said it this morning. Got in stupid quiet, didn't spook anything. Had a really good time. Watching the world wake up around me. Had some deer come in at one point, I think in the dark. I can't confirm. It wasn't real convincing, but you just kind of had the feeling that that's what was creeping through. And did some calling, did some really aggressive calling, subtle calling, all of it, just kind of throwing a Hail Mary at everything. And as I was getting down, a couple deer busted me that were inside the bedding area about 50 yards in front of me. And last night I really thought about going and, approaching that bedding area a little closer, tearing everything down and getting over there since that buck had chased those does out of there. And I played it a little conservative, which is lesson learned. Last day of the hunt, get aggressive. And I think if I had moved over about 50 yards, I would have killed those deer. But, it was a good time to get knocked in the teeth from the jump, and then to get on deer using the things that I've learned in this podcast and I've brought to you guys on a weekly basis. I was able to get on deer from the jump, and that is huge. I got on deer from the jump, struggled a little bit, used some tactics on the podcast to get on them again. And, almost made it happen a couple different times, which, what more could you ask for? And I had a good time in camp. Marty got a good deer.
it's time to pack everything up and get home and love on my little boy and love on my wife and get ready for the next hunt. So I will try and do these whenever I go out for a couple days, or I set out for like an overnight event or something like that, and maybe I can do more of these. And if you guys like them, let us know. Send us a message. We'd be glad to bring them to you more often. When I get a chance, I'm going to sit down with Chase, and I think we're going to record an episode kind of going into detail of the tactics that I went into this hunt. What was successful? What wasn't successful? What I would do differently if I had a chance to do it all over again. We'll do a breakdown for that. But if you like the podcast, do us a favor, leave us a rating. If you're on iTunes, leave us a rating so that we can be found more easily. That's how we get discovered, is when people give good reviews. And check out Patreon as well. Patreon helps pay for this trip. I should have mentioned that early on, but the gas bill going everywhere, it adds up, man, big time. And we try and bring you productions. And I filmed the majority of this hunt, although it's probably going to be part of a larger video. But you guys helping support this show, helping us to go and do these things and bring content to you guys, go and do live episodes. I mean, it's huge and it means the world to us. And so I just want to say thank you to all the Patreon supporters, all the people who have taken the time to come on the show and impart wisdom for everybody to learn from, myself included, because I would not have gotten on deer 4 or 5 years ago when I started this podcast. I don't think I would have gone to the WMA and got on deer right from the jump like we did, or continued to after I got kicked in the teeth. So until next time, guys, get outside and enjoy the great outdoors. Appreciate everything you guys do. And until next time, be good, be safe, try something new.